be kind to yourself. That's a very important. That's a very important lesson that you have to carry. The very first thing is that you have to be kind to yourself. So no training can start without being kind to yourself. That's number one. Number two, that is the accepting the limitations. You have to only accept that with the amount of time you have, you only can be ready for certain things. You're going to go to a tournament not being prepared for certain scenarios, but being prepared for some other ones. So the question that arises, and I'm gonna try to let someone get in, so you can answer this question by raising your hand, but using it virtually. How can you minimize the damage? Because after all, you cannot cover all scenarios. So what can you do? So in terms of what kind of training should you adapt to avoid to minimize the damage, pretty much to just cover more scenarios? I wonder if anybody would like to give it a shot. I'll let anyone raise hand and talk about it if you would like. No one. Well, okay, it's a very daunting, it's an intimidating question. So here's what I can tell you, and that is what I read in many books. I've been reading from HBR, Harvard Business Review, and a lot of other books I've been reading about how to train and how strong. It's not only for the chess players or athletes or anyone. It's for the managers, for people who have high intensity works and requires high performance from them at all time. You need to focus on your strength. And that is probably mind-boggling for some of you. How so? You have to focus on your strength. I see a lot of people say, oh, I'm going to a tournament. I'm so rusty. My tactic is so bad. And people spend a lot of time. If you've been always bad at tactics and or compared to other parts of your game, like if you're better at strategic thinking and you're trying to improve your tactics for like 3 years before the tournament, that's a waste of time. Do some basic tactics. Of course, you have to do that. You cannot go all the way rusty to the tournament. You have to do some basic tactics. Some maybe puzzle rush, some puzzle survival, something like that on leeches or chess.com. Either way. But you need to focus on your strength. Because those are the things that you can enable and you can use them well because your brain is wired, is ready to use them. So you can just kind of do a bit of rewiring and try to just use the same knowledge. It's the same thing. You just haven't used it for a long time, so you have to focus on your strength. I'm gonna give you an example from a game of mine in this tournament. So let me just share my screen and give me 1 second, please. Those of you who uses ChessBase know that sometimes this software has some glitch, and I have to make sure that the glitch is gone. So, all right. Let's try to understand this by doing it. So, all right. Let me get a board. And all right, do you all see the board? All right. I am playing someone about 500 points below me, 400, and I have black pieces. I already had one bad draw, which was due to my bad form in terms of calculation. So I cannot do anything about that. I have black pieces in this game. So I come to the board, and I only know that my opponent is a D4 player, young player, talented, but only I know he's a D4 player. So he goes D4, E6, C4, G6. Obviously, I want to beat my opponent. So how did I come up that if I play this system, it probably throws him off? All right. You have to understand the environment, and again, know the limitations of yours and your opponents, and focus on the things you're good at. I have many games that are not published online that I play this system with the idea of bishop to G7, knight E7, D5. I have many games. It's a bad opening, but I have a lot of experience in it against lower-tier opponents, and I've won many games with it. And my opponent only learn about the pairing an hour before the game. And I have over 3,000 games in the database, right? So I'm not a fixed target. I've played almost every single opening out there with black pieces. So I choose something that is unexpected from my opponent. So focus on using your pet line is one of the ways that you can succeed and prepare in short term for the tournament. So all I did, I checked some ideas before I got to the game for this game. Does it make sense for everyone? Okay, so I checked my pet line. C3, bishop G7, knight F3, knight E7. All right, you've heard of the word poker face and being a poker player and how poker players tend to read their opponent's face and their mimics and their reactions and all of that. Well, we have that in chess too. So I play knight E7, and here my opponent sits and spends 3 minutes to play the move E4. What does that tell me? Anybody would like to explain that? What does that tell me? Luna, you can tell me. Go ahead.
He's like not really, he doesn't really understand the opening, I guess.
He doesn't know the opening. Maybe he understands the opening. Thank you. Uh, he does not know the opening, so he's playing on his own hunch. He doesn't have any preparation. So when he plays e4, I have two choices. I can play the hypopotamus or I can play d5. I go head on because I already can see from his body language that it's not the opening that he's familiar with. So I play the move d5, and he plays bishop g5. And here is when I'm going to reiterate on this one. Review your openings, the games you have in that opening before the tournament. That's very important. Now I'm going to tell you one thing. In this case, I was a lazy person before this tournament. I just have a good memory. So this one I scored because I have a good memory, but not I shouldn't always rely on my memory. Review the opening you want to play in the tournament, your pet lines, and the games you've played in it. I recall the game from 2017 against Hans Niemann, the Hans Niemann you all have heard of. That he was not, of course, the player he is today. And he plays bishop g5. And over the board, I found this move h6. So he walked into my prep, my opponent. And it's not a big deal, this move. h6, at the time, the engine was showing like a slight advantage for black, but nowadays we just know it's a balance. Actually, white is slightly better, but that's okay. I know what I'm doing. He doesn't know what he's doing. So check your pet line and check all the games you've played in it. And also check which ones are online and which ones are not. But this game, none of my games in this open are online, are available. So no one knows I play this open. It always comes as a surprise. Now you guys know. Okay, spoiler alert now. I will not play this against you guys. You can be sure about that. So, bishop g5, h6, he took on e7, and here's the point. Because after he took on d5, take on d5, knight takes d5, queen takes e4, check, queen e2, queen takes e2, bishop e2. I play king d8, and we have a balanced position. And I can show you why it's balanced. Just very quickly with the engine. Do you see the engine, everyone? This evaluation is not very trustworthy because it's depth 21 and it's just equal, but it's yeah. I don't trust. It's just 0-0. This is on low depth. Once it gets to lesser depth 40, something like that, it's going to be 0. And I simply evaluate the position. Another thing you have to focus on, again, when I say focus on your strength, is that the fundamentals. So why I choose a position like this to play against someone? Because a lot of people say, oh, you're playing against someone 500 points below you. You don't want to trade queens. You shouldn't think about it like that. You should think about it, which part of the game I'm good at and what kind of positions I'm comfortable with that I play. Focus on your strength. Do not play the opponent. Focus on your strength. If I were to just say, oh, it's 500 points below me, I'm trying to throw him up, I just should keep the queens on the board and play more complex position. Chances are you can create some trouble for yourself. But I am entering a position that is endgame. I can play my moves quite fast. I know what I'm doing. And I can put pressure on my opponents on time. and it's not that easy for my inexperienced opponent to play this position. So I focused on the things I like. I like simple positions. I am good at evaluation and calculation. There are people who are in my classes here, they can vouch for that. We did a lot of simple chess in my classes. And I got my position. So that's it. I achieve what I want. Do not play the opponent when you have a little time to prepare for the tournament, and we have very little time to study your opponent. Focus on your strength again. You will hear me telling that for the next 10 minutes before we start doing the Q&A. So, queen to bishop to king d8, castles, rook e8, rook f e1, knight c6, rook a d1. I am blitzing out the moves. I have spent so far nothing, and he's spent like about 30 minutes on the clock. Okay. Now is where you have to be kind to yourself. It's a morning game, and I know I'm not good at calculation. I already know that. I haven't done enough calculation for this tournament. So I want to make a decision making a move. Number one, embrace suboptimality. I don't know if that word exists, but I just made it up. Accept that you can make suboptimal moves and you can be okay with it. That's a very important thing. That part of it, being kind to yourself. I'm looking at this position. Everyone can see that black is doing just fine. Any questions on that? Since I don't see many faces, but I think you can say that black is fine. Isn't that kind of obvious for everyone? If any questions?
Yeah.
Good. Okay, I got a confirmation on that. That's good. And if I run the engine for you guys, the engine confirms that we're doing fine. In fact, more than fine. So I spent some time thinking about bishop e6, bishop d7, all of that. I couldn't see all the way through. For example, this went through my head. And I wasn't so sure if I liked this position. I just didn't calculate knight f4. I didn't see that or something like that. So, and please keep yourself muted. Thank you. So, this was fuzzy in my head. So I spent my time looking at the position. I was like, I don't know if I want to play bishop e6 or I want to play bishop e6. He goes knight back. There's d5. There's knight e3 move. I don't know. Okay, a2 is hanging. I don't know. I play bishop d7. But I did one thing right. I stayed true to my core values. That was playing fast. So if you're naturally a player who plays fast and puts pressure on your opponent and time, stick to that. So I played bishop d7 fast. It's a sensible move. I played bishop d7. My opponent played knight c3. And I played a bad move. I played g5. And I already know it's a bad move. But I played it anyways. Not that I want to play a bad move. But let me show you what's the best way with the engine's calculation. Let me show you. It says a5, a4, king c8. A5, a4, king c8. You see that, guys? It says a5, rook d2, king c8, all of that. So I knew that I have to eventually bring my rook through this a file. But here I play the situation. Here, at this point, my opponent has spent 40 minutes of his 100 minutes on the clock and it's moved 15. He's the player who with less experience, and he's the one who is feeling uncomfortable at this position. So if I want to spend time calculating a5 and see everything through it, I don't know. Could or could not work, but I just played g5. I have a threat, and knowing that my opponent's amount of experience, who would try to solve what are these things coming over here? I don't understand. Okay. Knowing that he might try to react, he will spend more time. I play my move g5 pretty quickly. My opponent spent another 20 minutes and played the move bishop b5. I like the endgame, so I'm gonna get my endgame. Rook takes e1, rook takes e1, a6, bishop c6, bishop c6, knight e5. And here, I'm almost up an hour from my opponent. The engine says balanced, but I am doing just fine. I play my simple moves, simple chess, knight e5, played a5. Now I want to get my rook to the game. Knight g4, bishop d7, and here my opponent played knight df6. And I bring my rook to the game. I'm not afraid of simplifying. I know I am better. So I'm staying focused on one thing. I understand the position of my opponent. My opponent is trying to simplify. Knight takes d7, king takes d7, knight e5, bishop e5, rook e5. And here I made a mistake again in calculation. I could win this position right away, probably. I play rook c6, trying to go rook c2, king f1. And here I should go rook c2, but I play first b6 to defend this pawn. b6, b3, f6, rook e2, rook d5. I just go here. Rook is trapped, and then I just go to his house. Rook e2. King d6, activating my king, coming forward. Rook d2, king d5. Now if he goes king e1, I have this check and rook here. f3, and I go rook c3, restricting the king. King f2, f5, and now I'm just going to improve my position on both sides. I'm just grabbing space. King g3, played a4. Now this is of course a bad one. Yeah, you cannot decentralize your pieces. I mean, in the end game, a king from the center. So b takes a4, rook comes to c4. Now I'm attacking both pawns. Rook b2, rook takes a4, rook b5, and I remain true to my core value, which was no counterplay from my opponent. Oh, sorry, actually he blundered here. Rook h4. He already has 1 minute, and I have over 1 hour 20 on my clock, even more than that maybe. Capture, 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 check. Here he play 3. And this is the only time I calculated something in this game. This is the first and last time I calculated something in this game. And I saw through this. I saw rook d3, a4, rook d4, a5, rook d5, rook d5, king d5, a6, king c6, f4, g4, and he resigned because I'm going to go b5, king b6, and this is just win. So the whole game, I spent 3 minutes calculating this position only. I use all my core competencies. Stay focused. You heard this in business, you heard this in MBA programs, and you heard here in chess. And I'm telling you, do that for yourself. That's the biggest lesson I can give you of all for preparing in a short amount of time. Stay focused on your core competencies. I played simple chess. I stuck to my 9 imbalances. I played only by evaluation. I avoided complications. I accepted the fact that I'm making bad moves that are not accurate, but I remained true to my positional values. Again, played the game board safely, and I kept playing fast, hammer my opponent on the clock. Everything that Elshan Badi as a chess player is known for that. So know yourself well and do it right this way. Now the next step would be that now I have the scheme here. If I just leave it like that, then I'm not being true to myself. I have to go in depth analyze this game. And if I'm going to analyze this game, let me show you some game that I've played in 2001. Give me 1 second, please. I need to find this file. Um, One second, please. I still cannot find it, so I have to. Thanks for your patience. Okay, I found the scheme. All right. You want to learn from your games and for the future and be able to prepare this in a short amount of time. Later on, this is a game from 2001. If I print this analysis, as you can see here, if I print this analysis, and this is even the incomplete version of it, it's six and a half pages of analysis. If I do it, say here, let me see if I can show it to you. If I do a print game, do you see the print, guys? I don't know if you see the print. Can you see the print?
Yeah.
Okay. How many pages is this? Let me see. 4, 5. There's 6 pages of analysis. Is it seven? 7 pages, or maybe even more than that. 8 pages. And it's not the complete version. So treat yourself with respect during the game. Be kind, but after that, spend time analyzing your games like this. 8 pages of analysis of a game from 2001. So have I finished? Am I finished looking at this game that I played? No. I look at it every day a little bit, maybe not every day, every week. I would not have time to complete my analysis, but I spend the time over and over to be able to get it to this level of analysis so I can learn everything about it. So later on you do that. So when you go to the tournament, when you have these games ready for you next time, you can play more confidently because you know everything about it. And again, if you don't have time, stick to your core competency. I cannot emphasize enough on that. Stick to your core competencies. Like if you're good at positional chess, read some positional book before the tournament. Do not focus on your calculation and tactics or your end game. By the way, you have to do end games anyways. That part is a must for any player at any level. You have to do some end games before the tournament because it has practical use. It always has practical use. You have to spend at least if 10% to 15% of your time before the tournament on practical end games and review that. The material is up to you, but you have to do it like that. Okay. I think I can teach you a lot of things by answering questions. What do you think, Luigi? I think if we can look at the questions, if there are many of them, we probably can give more feedback to everyone.
Yes, yes. So everyone, you can type in your questions here. While waiting on that, first someone, John actually asking question that what is your definition of simple chess?
So the definition of simple chess. Simple chess is the kind of chess that positional players playing mostly play as a Karpov, Capablanca, at times Magnus, although his chess is extremely technical and you kind of have to study it in a very in-depth fashion. So Karpov, Capablanca, in terms of world champions, Petrosian. So preventive chess, prophylactics, relying on end games. Ulf Anderson, for example, as another player for simple chess, sticking mainly to the positional cues and trying to minimize the tactical conflicts. That's going to be simple chess.
Okay.
That would be my definition of simple chess, of course.
Yeah, thank you. And
Sure.
so everyone else, if you have any question, you just type in the chat. And so I may want to curious to ask, like, what do you think about a before tournament, kind of like a activity checklist, or how is a good idea to allocate the time on any sort of training? I mean, maybe for different levels of players, the checklist might be different. So would you
Right.
like to break down slightly based on different rating groups and
Yes.
give some advice about how to allocate the time?
Okay. So here also I'm gonna tell you one thing. The lower the rating of the players, the more they have to work on their chess. That's kind of given. So you expect a player who is 1400 to spend more time on chess than a player who is 1800, than a player who is 2000 and a player who is 2400. Because the player who is 2400 obviously accumulated more knowledge or time, spend more time on chess. So obviously unless they want to change level, they have to put less effort to kind of maintain level. So that's kind of given. That's how the learning curve works. So if you're a 1500 player, let's say, before a tournament, you have to do a lot of tactics not to be rusty, to be able to see the entire board. Because 360 vision is very important for 1500 players. You have to see the entire, you have to be able to see the entire board. So I would emphasize a lot on tactics, tactical thinking, ideas, and end game, like being able to calculate. That's for 1500 player. I would say 1600 player. That's I'm very adamant about it. If they are close to 1800, some opening preparation is also important. They have to know their openings and they have to review that. So that's for up to 1800, 1900 players. For 2000, again, the opening end game tactics, and what adds up is that I usually encourage to study some positional ideas as well too, because the opponents are getting stronger. So you have to work on your positional understanding as well, but not as much tactics. So the amount of tactics I encourage the 2000 players do is not as much as I push for players who are lower rated. Instead, if after any lessons with me or they're in the group sessions, I try to give them more positional ideas, talk about the evaluations and how to apply to their calculations. So pretty much in the thought process is more. They have to work on their thought process more than spending time on sole tactics. For 2200 players, they have to go all around. Everything. I encourage reading some books before a tournament usually, and trying again. Now, the focus on the core competencies will grow as the rating grows. So they have to figure out what they are good at in chess and try to get that kind of positions, the kind of opening positions they want to get, avoid the kind of middle game positions they're not good at, and pretty much become better practical decision makers. The higher the rating goes, this practical decisions becomes more important, because at some point onward, it's not just your moves that they win the game, but it's your practical decisions and how make it hard for your opponent to make a move. So then it becomes more clear in that sense.
Okay, yeah, there's a lot of people start asking questions. And by the way, please type in your chat questions to the group chat, not directly to me. If you type it to me, coach cannot see that. So we can see Aiden asking, what is the best way to improve in classical chess?
Yes, in classical chess, if you're again below 2000, have a fixed repertoire and have always a plan B repertoire. As you can see, I have a main repertoire, but also have a plan B so that I will not be a fixed target. It's very important in today's chess in terms of opening not to be a fixed target. Having a pet line is great because when you are not prepared enough, you can just go and play it, and you have enough confidence in your choice of opening. However, you need to have a plan B. You need to have some other openings. However, that is only when you are close to 2000. I would say for players 1500 rated players, if they want to get good at chess, they have to focus on their vision of the board, to see the entire board, to see the ideas. And reading books, I strongly encourage reading books. I know nowadays a lot of time people want to be in the classroom, but the coach shows them. I mean, we will show everything. But on top of that, if you really want to kind of reinforce what you learn in the classroom or you learn in ChessEvolve or anything else you do, I would encourage you to read a book on the side. Ask either your coach to give you some recommendation or pick something, or reading a book, because there you are getting on a journey where you are learning from a thought process of a grandmaster or international master who spend a lot of time trying to put their thought into a book, and there are a lot of positions there. So you kind of adopt a thought process there that is new to you from what you've been doing, and you can learn new other perspectives. So I am very adamant about it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I see Joshua is asking, if you start again, how would you improve yourself on chess, and how do you prioritize? I would kind of like interpret this question also similar, like how can you still improve chess even if a person achieved a master level? And that's kind of like a general question to help
Yeah.
a lot of high-rated players.
Okay, this sounds funny, but first thing is that I would have put more time in chess. So that's number one. If you can put more time into it, then it's great. If I go back, I would try to be more objective, spend more time on training, and I will take every mundane task with wholeheartedly, and a lot of mundane tasks in chess. For example, I can give you a very interesting life story about it. I'm very good at two knights versus pawn. So two knights, sold two knights versus a king is a draw, but two knights versus pawn at times are winning. And I'm very good at with that end game because I spent about 10 hours with my coach back in the year 2000 learning this kind of positions. I think let me give you a demonstration actually. Let me I in my last tournament that I played, um if I may to show you, um I cannot find the game here, but let me just see if maybe I can find it. Give me 1 second, please. Okay, where's the game? Give me 1 second. Sorry about this. I'm just gonna show you the example. Uh, okay. So taking every task seriously is very important. So I played a very bad game this one, and I ended up finally in this position. In the winning position, I made a mistake, and here I should have played. This is a mistake. I lost my pawn. I should have just played king c2 wins the game. So I did this, and we ended up in this drawish position. It's completely draw. But I know how to play this position, and my opponent played it very not seriously, and she thought that this is going to be a draw. And she's right. It is a draw. But I played this maneuver very accurately, almost like the way engine would do it. I restrict the king, and finally I got a winning position. And okay, here I had to go 92 actually, 92 knight f1, because this actually doesn't win in 50 moves, but we didn't realize that this is the only mistake I made in the whole process. And then I found this edging, and then I won with this mate, beautiful mate. I played perfectly. So I learned this one in 2000 and 2001. I spent 10, 12 hours on it. And this is, I'm so good at it. Now, king and rook versus king, rook, and bishop. I've studied very much, but I didn't take it seriously enough. Oh, it's easy. You just have to do the second rank maneuver or the Philidor defense, and you're just gonna be fine. I lost 2 games in it. Finally, after losing 2 games, I took it seriously enough to just learn it and master it. So take every mundane task to your heart and try to do it very seriously, because you never know when it becomes handy. So do it like that. That's very important. Take every mundane task very seriously. If I could go back, I'll do that. That's the very important lesson for me. Okay.
Yeah, I see a lot of detail learning details questions. And someone's asking before the tournament how to practically prepare endgames. Do you have any
Okay.
idea real quick?
Yes. In the end game, first learn everything related to Philidor position. Philidor position is easy, but there are so many positions related to that. If you want to do that, I encourage you to read older endgame books, because they kind of they relate positions to each other. So, for example, Smyslov endgame book or Dvorsky's endgame book, I would say Dvorsky is probably the best right now because it's published closer in time to us, and Dvorsky is the best one. So always try to learn the most common practical endgame positions there. If there's one book you have to pick, is Dvorsky. If your level is 2000, if you're lower, 100 gram endgames you must know by Jesus de la Villa. These are the 2 books I think are best for studying that for the end game before the tournament.
Okay. And then the next question is a couple of people are asking like openings, and someone asking like he keep playing Scotch openings, and but not getting very successful for intermediate players. and someone was a little higher rated, be also curious about what kind of opening should prepare, like should play for white, what kind of opening for black? Any recommendations?
Okay. This is all. I mean, I cannot just answer this out of the context because I wouldn't know this player's level, so I cannot just answer that without knowing their level. But if you're not successful with an opening, I would say you can do three things. You can either find a course on Chessable, ask a coach, study like 2-3 sessions with the coach, or what you could do is to look at all your games, see your result, see that if you can get good position at least out of that opening, and then decide whether to stick to it or not. So you have three ways to do that. So after doing one of these three, you can decide whether you have to stick to the opening or switch. I would say at least showing your games to an expert for a session or two would be ideal. I would do that. Like for example, I had problem with Italian, and a colleague of mine who's stronger than me. Obviously, I do things for each other, so it was not like I hired him, but I mean I asked for a couple of hours of his opinion of mine. I said, Elshan, you're bad at playing the Italian in the system, so I just entirely abandoned that system. That wasn't for me, so I just abandoned it. So asking someone's opinion, at least someone a little bit better than you, or someone at least at your level, it's gonna help you with that. So that's for that. And the other question was, what was the other question? Sorry.
It's kind of like a opening recommendations, like what kind of opening
Okay.
you consider as the best openings, or for black, white.
All right. Again, it all comes to your core competency. I would say I'm old school. Uh, Pressure little with white with no risk, and put your opponents kind of on the spot with black pieces. But that's my style. So it's a little bit biased. That's what I like to do. But I always try to adapt to my students' needs. So I always see what's their core competencies and create their opening repertoire based on that. For example, I have a player who's 2100. He plays Sicilian with black very aggressively, but plays London as white, and it just works for him. I have another student who plays very aggressively as white, plays E4 player as white, plays all main lines. As black, he plays E4, E5, and D4, D5. Plays very solid. So solid style works for him. So it always comes down to the style of the player. I myself play more risky with black pieces for the win, and more solid with white as white, which as with white pieces, I play more solid. I try to take a minimal risk with white. It again comes down to one's style and the way of thinking.
Okay, thank you. And someone asking in the critical positions, and what is your thought process? Kind of like a what do you think to in a critical position?
What's the thought process? We have two people here who've been in my class. I think maybe even more than that. I don't know if Eric is still here or not, but John has been. Okay, Sylvain also was here. So and we have Andrew as well here. Many who've been in my class. So uh, I'll let John say it. Says John, what is my method of evaluation? What's it called? I'll let John say it. What is the method, John?
Well, I would talk about the 9 imbalances from your website, and we think about these things during a game: king safety, and the pawn structure, and the 9 imbalances are on the website. But
Yes.
these are the things that are going through my brain more often now after taking the lessons, and I'm thinking about these things during the game, and it's very interesting, actually.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. Yes. So thanks, John. So yes, I have a method of 9 imbalances that I talk about in my classes, and that's the evaluation system we use in the class, and we try to give positions based on that. So as John mentioned, Ruij, this is what we do. But there are other. I'm not saying there is only one, but for me, we use that. We condensed it. There's Reassess Your Chess by Silman. That's also fantastic content that people can use for evaluation. But we use a method of evaluation that I have developed for my students, and that's what I do. So I would say pick one. There are many out. There aren't that many out there, but there are enough handful of them out there that people can choose and they can use in their adapting their thought process. But it's very important to think about them, as John mentioned. It's very important to think about them because if you don't learn to use these cues, then you're going to have problem to coming up with ideas and evaluating your position. And if you cannot evaluate, you always have inconsistency in your thought process. You make some good moves, some bad moves, but then it doesn't flow. It doesn't help you to be a better player, because consistency is the foundation of becoming a better player from the level you are to the next level.
Hmm. Yes. By the way, for the people who don't know that, I mean, Elshan's class, the lower rated was 1400 group, U 1400 group. The high rated is like 2200 group. So for anyone interested in the class, you can join that or private class, whatever you like. And so another player is in 1800 rated, and he asking, what is your suggestions to improve middle game for that rating level, or how to allocate times on like openings, middle game versus end game trainings, or
Well,
preference.
the allocation of time, it is entirely on how much time they have.
Mhm.
And if you have 15 hours per week, you kind of have to do it 50-50 on everything. Like not 50-50, but just you have to do tactical training, end games, um, positional understanding, and opening. So that's whatever you have to divide it to 4, because you have to do all of them. Because 1800 players, you have to learn everything. You have to improve on every aspect of your chess to be able to become an expert or something else, or better player, whatever you're trying to achieve for 1800 players. If you have more time, than, let's say, if you have 30 hours per week or something, you're a professional player, then I would suggest again books on positional chess, books that they explain more and are less of positions. Let's say not middle game puzzle books, but for example, there's a book called Pump Up Your Rating by Axel Smith. You might have heard of him. That has a lot of explanations in it. I would suggest that for a player at 1800 level compared to um, Agar's Grandmaster Preparation, other books. It's not about the difficulty of the positions. It's about that uh, Agar's, or even my book Sherlock's Method, which is even easier than Agar's book, or some other strategy positional strategic positions teaching in this kind of content. These are designed for players who've already studied a lot of middle games, and they want to improve their decision making by seeing more patterns. So improving a pattern recognition. Whereas if you are not having a well-enforced understanding of your evaluation, you have to go and read books that talk about the foundations. There's another book by Grandmaster Jan Marcus from Slovakia. It's called The Under the Surface. Difficult book, but it talks about your chess philosophy. You at 1800 is where you have to begin to understand your chess philosophy and your approach to the game of chess. Now, this is the kind of positions I like. This is the kind of way I like to think about chess, and these are my limitations again.
Okay. And someone asking interesting question. So sometime when he's low on time and he feel pressure and making even more mistakes. So even though some game he doing good at the beginning. So he asking like if you realize that, how to stay cool, and or what kind of move can make it like keep performing better under the pressure.
Performing better under pressure. Playing a lot of blitz games helps. Playing a lot of blitz games, like before the tournament, to get used to the pressure. Playing a lot of blitz games in person, like we're talking over the board chess, right? So playing a lot of blitz games with friends and someone your level will get you prepared for those situations. But there's no right or wrong answer to, okay, I'm in time pressure. What kind of moves should I make? There's no answer to that.
Mhm. Yeah, someone's asking like how to build the confidence before the tournament.
How to build the confidence? Well, working a lot on chess helps to build the confidence, but we always don't have that much time to do that. I would say again, go accept your limitations, embrace your strength, work on your strength, and feel good about your strength. This is very important, to feel good about things you're good at in chess. You go to the board and say, I feel very good to play against Sicilian. My prep is pretty good, and I feel I'm confident I can play this kind of positions. Oh, okay, you may not get all Sicilians, but like With white, I feel very confident. So I keep focusing on my white games because I notice half of my games are with white pieces. At least I feel good about those. So it's very important to focus on your strength when you go to these games. Yeah.
Hmm. Okay, someone asking tactic books recommendations. I assume this question might be different for different rating levels. Would you mind to break down a little bit?
Tactic books. There's Woodpecker Method. That's almost good for every level. Woodpecker Method is good. I'm thinking Yusupov books. I don't know what are they called, but Yusupov books, the yellow books are very good. His blue ones are a little bit harder, and then also the green ones. Yusupov books are very good. Published by Quality Chess. I'm just trying to think hard about tactic books. There's a combination encyclopedia published by Informator. That is a very good, but it's this thick of a book is like 500 pages, and there are like all kinds of combination books, and for people who like to do study books. Other than that, Leeches has abandoned amount of tactics and abandons, and chess.com as well as has chess tempo is pretty hard. Have you guys tried chess tempo? Pretty hard, really hard. Chess tempo is really hard. I don't know if you can register for chess tempo anymore, but the good thing about chess tempo is that you can assign your coach to see your progress and see what kind of tactics you've done, what kind of mistakes you've made. That was the good thing about chess tempo. I use few students of mine used to have chess tempo, and I could track their activities on chess tempo. That's another one. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. So the next question is someone asking, how do you come up with a plan in the middle game?
Plan in the middle of the game.
Mhm.
You think John covered the 9 imbalances. We're gonna go with 9 imbalances. That's my philosophy. That's what I teach my students, and that's what I believe in. So we learn the 9 imbalances. We try to turn into those 9 cues, and we make decisions based on that. That's for me. You have to adopt a thought process. That's what we do in my classes.
Mhm. So, and someone was asking your personal history, how many years have you played? And also particular asking like how many hours at the beginning of your playing chess versus how many hours now. I mean, kind of like a time allocation thing.
Time allocation for my own chess, still I am spending 10 hours a week right now for my chess, and I don't count my teaching hours or my preparation hours for content as my chess hours. So I don't consider that as training. I give 10 hours for myself to train on my chess, do some tactics, look at some in-depth chess. I mean, once a student, you're always a student. You're never gonna quit being a student. I learned that in my PhD program, and I know that it applies everywhere in life. Once you're a student, you're always a student. So, but when I was younger, it was my life. So when I say my life, I wasn't studying 40, 50 hours a week. No, I wasn't that hardworking. I wish I was. But I was whenever I had time, I would study very in depth. And sometimes I would spend many hours in one day to study chess. So like on holidays, I remember one holiday, my family went out. Everybody were like, it was April 1st actually in Iran. It's like the 13th day of Nowruz, New Year, and everyone goes out and picnic and all of that. And I spent indoor 13 hours studying chess. So I'm not saying you should do that. I'm not saying this is healthy. But what I'm saying, because I love the game, I allocated that time to study chess.
Interesting. And someone asking for food and any uh I mean special food restrictions before a tournament?
Yes, especially for kids. Not before a tournament, during a tournament. No pizzas during a tournament. No pizzas. No, no cheese. No carbs during the day. Only at night.
Why?
That's because you cannot think. Then the whole body is busy. The whole body and brain is busy digesting that carb. No carbs during the game. No pizza. Only carbs at night.
Oh, I don't know that. Maybe that's one of the reason I cannot think during the whole day.
Yeah, carbs during the day, and you can get sugar, get it from fruits.
Okay, that's interesting. And so how do you calculate through long, deep, complex variations? Sometimes I guess it's super complex.
Super complex. We have four Qs again. I taught some of the people here. John has been in my class. Sylvan has been in my class. Who else has been here? I think I've taught Chris also has been in my class. Some of the people here. Kim has been. So four Qs. We have. Okay, these are the things. Brute force. That's the basic of it, of course. Prophylactics in terms of how to prevent your opponent's counterplay. Process of elimination. How to eliminate the bad moves so you're left with the good moves. Comparison of the ideas. Sometimes it's a dichotomy, like you have two moves, or sometimes just more than one. You have to delimit those. So these four Qs, this is the way you have to think about it. Again, I'm going to review brute force. That's imagination. Process of elimination. You get rid of the bad moves, so you're left with the good moves. And I always in my class, I also talked about it that if you have two choices and still one of the moves you think is the right one, 50% confidence is less than if your move is 1 out of 6, because then you're sure 5 moves are bad. So it gives adds to your confidence that you know 5 other moves that were your candidates were not good, and then you have more confidence in the move you've chosen. So even sometimes you are kind of sure, you want to check other moves to make sure they are bad. Prophylactics, I think I cannot reiterate how much I spent time teaching that, and Dvorsky also talks a lot about it in terms of thought process, how to prevent your opponent's counterplay, and how it can be important. Always ask the right question about what to be prevented, and comparison, of course, comparison of two ideas. I have plan A. You go through plan A and then just say, okay, let me see plan A with this tweak, and then compare the two and see that if the tweak makes a difference or doesn't make a difference. And then you have to kind of find that. That's the hardest part. Comparison is the hardest form of calculation.
Mhm. Okay, cool. And I saw there's a last two questions. I just want to finish that really quick. So one is someone from 1800 level asking that he's not really sure about his strength and what positions comfortable with, or he's basically trying to ask how can he figure out his strength and weakness.
Okay, I can give you a very crude solution to that. What I do is that I will go to ChessBase. Do you see my ChessBase, everyone?
Mhm.
So this is my game. So let's say I'm looking at myself with from black side. Okay, now I'm gonna look at my selection to book. Do you see my book? Do you see the book I created from my games? Or no? Do you see the book I created, the board? Do you see the board, everyone? Or no?
Yes.
No?
I see a tiny board.
Okay, let me just go back and then share again. Now you see it. Now you should be able to see it. Do you see that? Now you see the board. Okay, so let's say I want to see my games against e4. So I'm gonna say e4, and I've played so many different things, and this is the success rate. Okay, so okay, I mean I've been successful because I am a GM, so I have a higher, more than 50% on everything. But let's say I'm looking at my e45. I want to see if there's some part in e45 I have to improve. So e45, knight f3, knight c6, and I was telling you about bishop c4, and I play bishop c5. I see this one I've been very unsuccessful. My opponent had 60% score against my knight f6, and I haven't played it so often. So I'm ditching it. I'm not playing this one. Bishop c5, and oh, it seems that I'm having some problem with some systems. And say even if I go a6, c3, d6, and yeah, I'm having some problem with some systems I've played against. h3, this one. Okay, I either revisit it or I studied, or I'm gonna check those games to see where my problem was. So I just go by the statistics. If you don't know that, this is the simplest way to do it. Just you look at your results and you see the distribution of your results, and then you go from there. That's the easiest way. You can other things you can do. You can hire an expert, or you can just have engines to go through your games. But I wouldn't bother with the engine because it's too perfect. The engine is too good for any level. So you cannot really exactly be sure what are you comparing yourself to, because compared to God, we're all fallible. So we're just, that doesn't make any sense. So I would say either look at the stat or just get an expert's opinion.
Okay. So the last question come from one person. He was just add up to saying that sometimes when you calculate long variations, it is difficult to follow along, I guess, in the head to finish the calculation. So is there a way to train your ability to improve that or look ahead in those situations?
I was actually going to suggest, now they asked this one, I wanted to make another seminar to show how I train my calculation. Like I train and people could watch me how I train my calculation.
Okay.
So that is only, I'm gonna do that one. Not, I don't know what time we have to work on the time, but I will do that one day. And I promise you, everyone, they can watch me working on my calculation. It is only by the time you allocate. That's the only the key. The foundation is the time you put into the calculation. There's no other way to do that one. I'm not saying more, but how to do that part, how you manage your time. Like again, people in my class, Sylvain, John, everyone knows you have to restrict your time. You cannot just sit and look at the position for 35 minutes, for 40 minutes, because that's not practical. So you have to think, you have to see what you've seen that part, then you can go check the solutions, and you can always have to check your lines and see what have you missed. That's very important to check your thought process. Just go through the line and see what was missing if it wasn't the best move. But we will do that. I promise everyone that I will do one session working on my calculation and show it to everyone. We can do one session like that too.
Thank you. I think we have finished all the questions. For anyone interested to contact Elshan for any training class opportunity, you can just like check out our website, have a group class, private class, and everything. We also have future tournaments. And okay, by the way, next Sunday, a small tournament we host on our website, you can see that Elshan going to play in that tournament. So if you want to join for fun and competing for the opportunity to play with Elshan, you can join that.
Not this Sunday, Sunday after.
Yeah, Sunday afternoons. And also we will have future events to talk about more about the calculations. And so everything is on our website, ChessEvolve.com. And thank you, everyone.
Thanks everyone for joining, and hope to see you in the future seminars as well too.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.